Hello everyone, and it seems we are finally live. Today's topic is a continuation of the previous one. We are talking about Geeks Home, but on more high level, and we talk about concepts and main things that you have to know about Geeks Home. First of all, for people who are not very familiar with the topic, we will discuss what and why we do. The second point of discussion will be operating system structure and how Geeks Home can take place in it. And after that, we continue with home environment building blocks. It's something that will help you to understand the main the primary concepts and tools of Geeks Home that you can use in the future for extending its capabilities. And after that, we will go through installation and configuration process, and a little warning that you don't have to do it, at least for now, and the reason why I will describe a little later. And after that, we will discuss the future of this project, and we will finish on this step. Okay, let's go to my notes, and we will state from the state. Many people who are familiar with functional programming understand the state concept very well. It's some data that you have to manage. The state is required. We can't get any results or store something without state. But it is bad in many cases, especially if it's used in the wrong way. When you're trying to test a software system or any other system which have state, first of all, you need to mock the state or to create to be able to run these tests. And if you operate with state in the wrong way, the state will spread around your system and will corrupt it, because it will be very hard to reproduce the exact situation which happens in your system, because you need to reproduce the state in every point of your system. And that is why it's very usual practice to try to make a state as explicit and dedicated as possible. And if you do so, you have only one or very few places where you have this state, and all other parts of your system are very pure and doesn't depend on the state directly, and you can pass parts of the state to the other part of the system to do some calculations or operations and return some values. And such systems are much easier to test, much easier to reason about, and it's what many people trying to achieve with functional programming. And it's also what we achieving in Nix and guix operating systems. And that is why I would like you to remember that we try to manage state as explicit and dedicated as possible. And it's not a primary goal, but very important goal. And let's talk a little about operating system structure. It consists of few things that we don't care about right now, like bootloader, kernel, init system, and so on. And some parts that we care about, and we will find analogs in our home environment. And it's installed software, configuration for that software, some services or cron jobs, some state, of course, because software can't operate without state, and environment variables. It's environment variables somewhere around software configuration, but it allows us to do some cool things that we will discuss a little later. It's a system part, and it's almost always managed by someone. For example, on your laptop, it managed partially by you and partially by developers of distributions and install scripts. And for example, in cluster, it managed by cluster admin, or in some organization, it managed by some system administrator, and so on. And there are a home part that in most cases the user in charge of. And the very basic idea what come to the mind of people and what they do, they create some directories and place some files in it. For example, they can create a bin directory to have some scripts and maybe some user installed programs to be here. And they create .config dir and place some configuration for the software they use. And also the bin directory approach also have interesting consequence. You use not only the software installed in bin directory, but also a software installed in your operating system. It's okay, but in the future we will see a little better approach for installing software. And of course you have something to manage your user services, for example Shepherd or system D or something else. And of course you have a state, a lot of state in many directories in your XDG directories like pictures, documents, and so on. And until it's not explicit, it's very hard to reproduce your home environment, because when you will switch to a different directory which doesn't have all your state synchronized with your previous working machine, you will lose something or will not be able to use some applications and so on. And funny thing that your configs is also state here, because it's just text files that you write. And even if you synchronize it using Git, it's still a state. It's not a result of some function that you have in your system environment, in guix, for example. And the same works for bin directory. It's some state, because it's produced by some commands, and it works only on the machine that you used for the first time, and on the second machine it will be missing. And of course you have to set some environments variable, and you do it with your profile and bashrc. It's a very simple and straightforward approach, but it has some downsides. But let's take a look at what we can do better with this. We can do almost everything that we have in the system available system-wide, but to do it user-wide. For example, available software. You don't have to install anything in your bin directory. You just need to set a path variable of your shell to point to some directory where all required software is installed. Also, the same works with software configurations. You don't have to place any configurations files to your .config dir. You can just point some variables to maybe they are program specific, maybe they are XDG specific, to point to the directory with configurations, and all the programs, most of the programs will be using the configurations from those directories, which is pretty cool. And it's how almost all functional package manager works. I mean operating system based on functional package managers like nix-shell and guix system. And of course, you have per user services and user cron, which is, for example, shepherd and mcron run as a user. But here we won't store the configurations somewhere in config directory or somewhere else. We will generate it from our declaration of home environment, and we'll point shepherd and mcron to use them. And of course you have state, but the state can be managed explicitly. We can say that this directory is a state, and it's also somehow connected with some Git repository. And to synchronize the state, you can launch a sync operation for state user service, for example, which will make this directory synchronized with remote repository, for example. Or if it is something else that can be synchronized via, for example, SMB protocol or many other protocols, or maybe with just rsync utility. You just specify local directory, remote directory, and actions available to user for synchronization. And it allows to say that we have a state, but it's very explicit and dedicated, and we know how to deal with it. That means that when you switch to another desktop or laptop, you can build all your configuration and all your software and install in your home environment, but also you can synchronize all the states that you need for the software to operate, which is also very important, I think, but missing in even very advanced tool like Home Manager in Nix OS operating system and Nix package manager. And of course you need environment variables to make everything works. And for now, in current implementation of Guix Home, it's just a shell file that you can source in your dot profile or bashrc or z profile or somewhere else to make it available for your shell. Yep, and that's how a better home environment can be implemented rather than the straightforward and very common approach. We have state, it's very dedicated, everything else is just a function of your configuration of your home environment, which is ridiculously cool, I think. And there are some other benefits that our home environment separated from system environment, and it's pretty obvious, but I will tell you. It's just few that I decided to write. Maybe there are much more, but those is first came to my mind. You doesn't have to have a root access to manage your home environments, and it will be evaluated much faster because you don't need to rebuild the system to apply this configuration. You just need to rebuild only the part related to your user, and it's cool. Each user in using such tool can have his configuration set up in his home environment, and it possible on multi-user machine. And obviously, in such a way, Guix Home can be used on different distributions. And as I know, one person already tried current implementation of Guix Home in Nix OS operating system, and it seems work. Yep. And the config question. Do we really need it? Because it implies that our state will be not only in our state directories, but also in config directory. Every configuration we write ourselves is kind of state because it's not connected with the configuration of home environment. And it is a little hard question because many programs relies on this config directory. And what is bad about it, some programs write to this config directory, which is pretty sad because we could make a separate config directory and just symlink it to .config and generate all the configurations to the original one, and it will be automatically appear in .config because they are symlinked. And that is why I still think about the solution, but we will figure out something. Okay, that's some theoretical part, and let's go to more interesting and let's dive into details of guix home itself. As you probably know, the guix uses very the same approach as guix home uses the very similar approach to guix system. It has home environment record, which define some fields that is specific for the user, maybe his layout, his xdg directories, and so on. And also it defines a list of services, and it defines a list of home services, which is very similar to system services, but they are user specific, and they build a graph of services extending each other, and at the end the top the root of this graph contains something that will be evaluated by guix build daemon and will appear as the files on file system. And after that, reconfigure script will make necessary symlinks. And after that, you're almost ready to go. As I said, you have a lot of home services, and there are 4 most important services that everyone will be using for sure. It's a home service type, which is, let me open the source code for it in case someone want a better understanding of what happens here. And it will be somewhere at the beginning of this file. Yep, this one. This service type is a root of the graph, which will be defined by the user. And what it basically do, it can be extended by other services, and at the end it returns a list of name and derivation. After that, it combines everything in one derivation, and reconfigure script or build script can call guix daemon and provide it with input for generating the directory, which will contain all the results of derivations of this provided by this service. Let me demonstrate it somewhere in guix home environment directory. You will see 3 things: on login, profile, and setup environment. Actually, that means that there are only 3 services which extended home service type in my case, and it is a profile service, which we will discuss just right now. It's environment service and run on first login service. And let's start from profile service. Obviously, we said that we need some software available to user, and this software can be specified by extending our home profile service type. We just give a set of packages to home profile service, and this service creates a derivation by just concatenating a big list of packages and removing duplicates, and providing this derivation to home service, which in case will provide these packages to guix build daemon. Pretty simple, I think, pretty straightforward. And the second service is environment variables service. What it basically do, it just generates a setup environment script which contains some necessary environments which will be sourced from profile generated on previous step, and also will set some additional variables to source configs from proper place and so on. It's a little drafty implementation of it. I will improve it in a while, but for now it already works and do its job. And the last service is onLogin service, run on first login. What it basically do, it generates another file which can be executed on login. I thought about PAM and I wanted to use it for evaluating the script on login, but decided to go a simpler approach, just generate a bash script which can be used in your bash or ZSH or maybe some other shell. Just by calling a sash on it, and basically what it do, it runs all provided commands to the service once on login, on first login, creates a file in xdg runtime directory which created on login, and after that, if you run the script one more time, it won't do anything because this file already exists. And when you log out, this file will disappear, and on next login, the script will be executed one more time on first login, obviously, after all shells disappeared. Okay, 4 basic services, very important, and it's almost everything you need. But we already discussed that we need something to manage our services. And for that, we have a shepherd, which is another service. And let's take a look at its implementation. Oops, misclicked. Home services shepherd. Cool. Another service which extends a few of earlier mentioned services, and we can take a look at our extension list. First of all, it extends run on first login service by providing a command for running a shepherd, which is pretty basic idea, and it's cool that when user logins the first time, the shepherd will be launched, and it will be able to run all other software that is required for user to be in the background. For example, it can run some daemons. It can run a mcron daemon for managing some cron jobs in your user space. It can run Emacs daemon to make it faster to connect to it with Emacs client, and also it can manage GNU-PG agent, for example, or your sync program or something like that. The second thing that it extends, it's profile service type, and it just provides a shepherd package to it, which make it available, which make herd available for the user. And make user able to manage his services, which is cool. And after that, it provides extension mechanism for itself. I mean, for other services to extend shepherd. And other services, for example, GNU-PG, can extend a shepherd service with a function. For example, here we extend shepherd service with add home GNU-PG agent to shepherd function. And this function is basically declares a list of Shepherd services that it requires. And here we have very simple service with which just call to utilities gpg connect agent and gpg conf to start and stop gpg agent. Yep, and that's all. And here you can see that GNU-PG service is also declare a variable. It declare a variable only if a special option specified. If you need a GPG agent to be an SSH, to emulate an SSH agent too, and use your GPG key as SSH key, you can set SSH aus sock variable and provide it with a call to gpg-conf. And in such setup, you will be able to use your GPG agent as both as SSH agent and GPG agent. And here you can see that if you declare this option in your home environment, it will additionally provide SSH agent in Shepherd service. Okay, let's take a look at home environment definition. I think it's relatively interesting how it will look. And it's just very the same as operating system record. We can declare a keyboard layout, which accepts a keyboard layout instance of keyboard layout record. It accepts a list of packages, which you can see here, and it accepts a list of services, of home services. For now, it's just home GNU-PG, and it have a simple configuration, just enable SSH agent. And few services will be started, will be added to this list automatically. It's a Shepherd service, and it's maybe I will do it optional to enable Shepherd service by default. Also, it's profile service and other services mentioned here. Okay, that's almost everything about main building blocks of our home environment. And now when the result of, as we saw, that home environment is just a directory in your home which contains few things. Profile, which is which very similar to which has very similar structure to FHS, which has bin, sbin, etc, and other directories as your root folder have, and on login script and setup environment scripts. Okay, when it come into play, actually you need, for now at least, you need to specify it somewhere in, for example, bash profile, to source those environment variables and to launch on login script. And after logout and relogin, it will start a Shepherd service and maybe some other things using on login script, and will set all necessary environments as it should be to make all the software and all the configurations available. And here how the setup environment script looks like. It sets set up something related to profile, some necessary variables as path and many others, and it's actually not many others, just path and maybe something else. And it also setups xdg data gears, and here it also setups xkb related variables to provide all other programs with layouts declared in home environment. And also, because I specified that I want SSH agent and set it to true, it will provide SSH aus sock variable. Let's try to rebuild our home environment, but we'll set SSH agent to false. And to do it, I will call this command. I provide a guile load path to current directory. Currently, I am in RDE directory, which contains the implementation of guix home for now. And I will call guix home command with reconfigure action, and will provide a path to home environment declaration. Now you can see that this environment is built, and it returns the path to the GNU store, but also it will update a symlink to guix home environment. And you can see it still contains 3 things, but let's take a look at our setup environment script one more time. And we can see that now we don't have SSH auth sock variable because we updated this declaration of our home environment. Obviously, if we will remove this service at all, the GPG related binaries will be also removed. Okay, that's how our guix home works, and it starts on your first login, and after that you have all the environment variables set to proper values, and you have a shepherd started and maybe some other services, and you're ready to use it. Okay, a little about contributing and about mailing lists. Currently, I develop it on SourceHut, and I see people already sending patches and questions. For now, it's better to concentrate on discussions, because I still need to implement few essential features, and after that I hope to make this guix home available upstream, and I'm not sure if how easy it will be to upstream patches from other afters. I think that because I maybe lose some aftership during rebases or something else, and it will be maybe even illegal to make such patches appear upstream. That is why I propose to focus more on discussions right now, and to send patches only if it's really necessary. But anyway, thank you for all the participations. I'm very excited to see it. And a little setup guide. One more time, I don't advise to use it right now because it's not finished yet, and also it will require 2 migration when it will appear in upstream. Maybe we will require some migration, or maybe I will break something like API, and you will need to rework your configuration or something else. But if you are very keen, there are a mailing list in RDE discussion, a thread in RDE discussion mailing list, which describes an installation process. And as we saw, the usage very simple. You declare the configuration, you build this configuration with reconfigure command, edit it, and it installs a symlink in your home directory. And after that, you add 2 lines to your bash profile or your shell profile, and you log in and enjoy this tool. Okay, for now it contains very few home services. That is why it's not very useful yet, but when I will move my configuration to this tool, it will have at least few important services like for Emacs and GNU-PG, password store, and browser, and something else, and it will be already useful, but I still advise to wait until it will be upstreamed, and I hope maintainers of GNU guix will accept it. I don't know how much time this process will take, and why it is important to upstream such a tool, because we already have experience of Home Manager for Nix, and it has few pain points. It's decoupled from Nixos. That means that newcomers don't know about it. It's not mentioned in official documentation. It requires some additional installation and so on. Not very welcoming experience for newcomers, but even newcomers want to manage not only the operating system declaratively, but also a home environment too. I already see a few threads and in mailing list and Mastodon social network about why guix doesn't provide a good declarative approach for managing home environments, because the approach for managing operating system is great, but there is no such approach for home environment yet, and I hope it will become the one that you can use. And the other problem that appears with Nix Home Manager, it's a lot of duplicates because it's decoupled from Nixos itself. There are many services, many functions which are almost the same as the services in Nixos itself, but with slightly different parameters, with a little different behavior, and you have to use one from Home Manager or from Nixos, and sometimes system the service provided in Home Manager better than the one provided in Nixos itself, and sometimes it vice versa. That is why if such tool is upstreamed, it more coupled with operating system itself, and it will be less duplicates, I suppose, and I hope. Yep, that's main problems that main points I found to learn from Nix Home Manager, and hope there are some other advantages that we will get. Okay, and the last item in today's list is feature of guix home. First of all, I will need to solve .config question somehow. Maybe I will be linking configurations to .config, some configurations to .config. Maybe not, because symlinking will require some cleanup, which is not a trivial task, and also it will be a little dirty solution. But anyway, I think we will solve this question somehow. The second is state management. I want to provide an API and some tools for declaring states for your home environment. It will provide a Git interface, rsync interface, and maybe a few other. And you will be able to type heard sync state, and it will backup all necessary file, will push all necessary repositories to remote repository, and maybe something else. Or you can provide an explicit which state do you want to synchronize. For example, you can type heard pull work project 1, and it will get the data from remote repository to your, or you just can type heard pull work, and it will update all your projects in work directory. I hope something like that will be very useful, especially when you setting up new laptop or desktop. You just copy your home environment, install all necessary software and configurations with guix home reconfigure, and after that you type third state init, and you get all your passwords, all your working project, and so on in your home environment ready to work on. Okay, the third item is migrating my own configuration. I'm already in process, but I finished only with, not even finished, I only started with my GNU PG, and I hope it will battle test a little a guix home utility, and I will be sure that it at least provide enough API for making services for many different softwares. I think, without S. Okay, the fourth point is writing documentation and upstreaming. I don't want to write documentation right now because the API and structure of source code changing pretty rapidly right now, and also I don't want to make many people able to use it right now until it upstreamed. And also I think that documentation will be written in tech info format for guix manual, and I don't want to make this work twice, writing in org mode and later writing in tech info. Yep, and after that or during writing documentation I will be trying to upstream this tool, and after that maybe I will write a special glue layer. Probably it will be system service, which will allow to say that for this user I want to declare such home environment, and it will make it possible to reconfigure your operating system and install a home environment for specific user at the same time. That means that system administrator will be able to manage home environments for users in case it's required by the system. Yep, and I think that's all for today. I'm very glad that you joined and hope you enjoyed. See you next time.